for the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, success on paper does not mean a thing as long as you're talking about Pakistan cricket. Just a day after a historic series win over England at home, the coach of the white ball format of the men's cricket team, Gary Kirsten, stepped down from his position. What does this mean for Pakistan cricket with the biggest ICC event, the Champions Trophy, around the corner? The racism row in Spain and Spanish football just refuses to die down. The latest to be subjected to this is Spain's own Euros hero, teenager Lamine Yamal. Spanish government has now got involved. How grave is this matter really? And over in Formula One, can Max Verstappen calm his nerves with 4 races to go this season and a driver's title on the line? He finished outside the podium in Mexico. What's got Verstappen wound up tight? More on this in the show. But first, let's take a look at the headlines. We have to start with this hot story from football. Manchester United have sacked manager Erik ten Hag following the 1-2 loss against West Ham in the Premier League. Club legend and Ten Hag's deputy, Ruud van Nistelrooy, has been named the interim head coach. In Ten Hag's 2-year-long spell, United have failed to win the Premier League or any European competitions. Currently, United are struggling in the 14th position at the English Premier League. Over in cricket, Afghanistan's A side won the Emerging Asia Cup by defeating Sri Lanka by 7 wickets in the final. Chasing 134 to win, Sadiqullah Atal's runner ball 55 and Mohammad Ishaq's quick fire 16 helped Afghanistan reach the target with 11 balls to spare. Afghanistan had beaten tournament favourites India en route to the final in the semi-final. India's heartbreak in the senior cricket teams also continues. The men lost the second test to New Zealand by 113 runs, chasing a target of 359. Mitchell Santner ran through the Indian lineup, picking up 6 wickets in their second innings. This is the first time in 12 years that India has lost a test series at home. India plays for pride and a shot at the World Test Championship when the third and final test begins in Mumbai on the 1st of November. And over in women's cricket, India lost the second ODI against New Zealand by 76 runs. New Zealand captain Sophie Devine scored 79 to help her team set a target of 260 and followed that up with 3 wickets while bowling India out for 183. The 3-match ODI series is tied at 1-1, third ODI to be played in Ahmedabad on Tuesday, that's 29th October. Over in tennis, Britain's #1 star Jack Draper won the Vienna Open after defeating Russia's Karen Khachanov 6-4, 7-5. This is Draper's second tour-level title. Following the title win, Draper has gotten up to 15th in the ATP rankings. And we'll sum it up with news from basketball. Steph Curry's Golden State Warriors suffered a 104 to 112 points loss against Los Angeles Clippers. Curry kept Warriors in the game by scoring 18 points till he sustained an ankle injury in the third quarter. Clippers, of course, capitalized on that and secured the win. Pakistan cricket is an anomaly. When things are going bad on the field, really bad, things go really bad off it too. Like when the men's team crashed out of the ODI World Cup last year, heads rolled. Inzamam ul Haq, the former captain, was shown the door as selector. Babar Azam stepped down. The entire coaching staff was sacked. When they suffered a humiliating ouster at the T20 World Cup some months ago, there was yet another overhaul. PCB management changed hands. The interim director of cricket, Mohammad Hafiz, was also removed. The selection committee refurbished and changed. New captains took over again. But even when things go well on the cricket field, really well, things continue to go very bad off it too. Pakistan over the weekend did the unthinkable. They clinched the test series against England at home 2-1, winning the third test in Rawalpindi. And news coming out earlier today looked like this. Imagine that, just the opposite of the kind of headlines you would wake up to otherwise coming after a win. Gary Kirsten stepping down and giving up the coaching gig. The same coach who took India to a World Cup win in 2011 was part of the mentorship setup at the IPL franchise Gujarat Titans, who won their inaugural season, has had enough of Pakistan cricket in nearly 6 months from being appointed as coach. There are murmurs of issues plaguing the setup for a while now. From what I hear, there was much the same noise when it came to Gary Kirsten too. The relationship between the coaching staff, the players and the management was not as smooth as it should have been. There was a bit of a fallout that he experienced, especially with the management, the PCB. And it came as no surprise that one of the calmest minds in cricket that I've interacted with has left with an ICC event, the Champions Trophy event, in fact, around the corner, to be hosted in Pakistan as of now in just 4 months' time. In fact, just last week, only a day prior to the start of the Rawalpindi Test, the coach of the red ball format, Jason Gillespie, came out saying this.
It's been made clear to me that my role is match day training and strategy. What happens with surfaces and selection is out of my control. I'm not involved in any of that.
Gillespie basically coming out and exposing the system in Pakistan, saying he was just a rubber stamp coach. The decisions, the really important decisions, were all being taken by the BCB and the selection committee. In fact, the captain and the coach had zero say in the matter on important things like who should be in the team, in the playing 11, and who should play that test. Of course, it all paid off in the end. Pakistan, traditionally known for the searing pacers who've set the stage alight for decades, had changed tack overnight. They didn't bowl a pacer for the first day of the third test against England. 2 spinners, in fact, Sajid Khan and Noman Ali, who probably never dreamed of playing test cricket again, were called up post that loss in the first test and got their moment under the sun. But things were not well. You could somehow sense the rumblings of it. But maybe this should come as no surprise as well if you followed Pakistan cricket for a while. Here, success and victories may be temporary, but the chaos in the cricketing system seems to be a permanent fixture. Because guess what? The PCB did right after that series win. They announced the player contracts. Great news for someone like Mohammad Rizwan. He will be the latest to join a long list of captains who have taken charge, many of whom have swapped hands just in 1 year alone. He's been awarded a grade A category along with Babar Azam, in fact the only 2 players to be in that grade. Guess PCB did not want to open a hornet's nest again by demoting Babar Azam after the flack they received when they dropped him from the remainder of the test series against England. No problem doing that with Shaheen Afridi apparently, who has been demoted to grade B. Fakhr Zaman, who has not been awarded a contract but a show cause noticed for expressing his dissent at the way the Babar Azam captaincy was handled. And Shan Masood has retained his grade B contract. But here's the catch. The PCB also said that was subject to his captaincy. What a way to show faith on a player, particularly your captain, almost putting a gun on his head. Performances do not come under duress. They do not come under threats and under such kind of pressure. I can only imagine what it would be like to be in Shan Masood's shoes at the moment. Because in case you caught the post-match show after a series win that had Shan Masood, former cricketer and selector Ramiz Raja and the host Zainab Abbas, you'd been forced to check the scoreline once more just to be sure this was not a recorded chat or something before the series win. Because Ramiz Raja kept taunting and mocking a test captain, especially after that win. This probably does not capture the tone and the taunt. It is good to ask hard-hitting questions, don't get me wrong, but those were not questions. It was more like statements of contempt, reflecting the level of toxicity that the entire cricketing fraternity in Pakistan seems to be reeking of. Kudos to Masood to hold his ground and even manage to smile through that torturous conversation that seemed like a one-way troll. But how long can the smile really stay? When the good can't stay on and only negativity comes out, even after a historic win like the one they experienced over this weekend. Now, football fans have a habit of questioning a player's allegiance and dedication towards their country. But when it comes to celebrating a national hero, many fans seem to conveniently forget national pride. It is overshadowed by club sentiments, and when I say sentiments, I'm putting it very mildly. It's almost jingoistic. In another horrendous episode in Spain, their rising sensation Lamine Yamal was racially abused during the Real Madrid clash at Bernabeu. He, along with Rafinha and Ansu Fati, were targeted in their game. While Fati and Rafinha were racially abused, Yamal had to face xenophobic attacks too. This after the 17-year-old celebrated his goal in the 77th minute during Barcelona's 4-0 triumph over Madrid. That's really tough one to stomach there. Both Real Madrid and La Liga promised to have promised to take action. It is also unsurprising that support for these Barcelona players came from one of their opponents from the night, someone who knows what's it like to be on the receiving end of such abuses. Vinicius Jr. came out and condoned the actions, calling out his own club's fans on social media.
It's regrettable what happened yesterday at the Bernabeu with racist insults. There is no place for these criminals in our society. All my support to Lamine, Ansu and Rafinha. I know that Madrid and the police will do things to identify and punish the guilty.
The Ballon d'Or contender didn't think twice before speaking out about the act and condoning fans of his club. It wouldn't have, condemning in fact fans of his club, it wouldn't have taken Vinicius much to keep aside the rivalry and address the elephant in the room: racism plaguing Spain's sporting circuit. While Vinicius has been targeted because of his Brazilian roots, he is considered an outsider by Spanish fans. Though, of course, that doesn't give anyone the right to racially profile him. Fans have now crossed the line to target one of their own. Yamal and Ansu Fati are Spanish nationals playing for Spain. The teenager Yamal, in fact, won Spain the Euros just a few months ago. The same Yamal who was celebrated and hailed after that Euros win, like this.
De la Eurocopa, joven, y encima felicitarle porque es
Despite being a Spanish national, fans didn't hesitate before targeting Yamal's Equatorial Guinea and Moroccan heritage. The same Yamal, who was a hero in Spain for winning them the Euros, is now being abused for his non-Spanish roots. So he's all Spain as long as he's winning trophies for the country. What's more shocking is the fact that Yamal hasn't had an easy year. After the Euros win, Yamal's father was stabbed, was hospitalized. The teenager underwent emotional turmoil for more than a month, yet continued to take his football and was trying to focus on his sport even as his father recuperated. The scars are still fresh from that episode, even as he fights his mental turbulence. He's been dealt with this, and in a game that is followed the world over, the rivalry of which almost everyone is aware of, including India's Prime Minister.
स्पेन के फुटबॉल को भी भारत में बहुत पसंद किया जाता है। अभी कल जो रियल मैड्रिड और बार्सिलोना के बीच मैच हुआ, उसकी चर्चा भारत में भी हुई। बार्सिलोना की शानदार जीत यहां भी डिस्कशन का विषय रही और मैं आपको गारंटी के साथ कह सकता हूं कि दोनों क्लब्स के फैंस में भारत में उतनी ही नोकझोंक भी हुई जितनी स्पेन में होती है।
A world leader speaking of the El Clasico, the relevance of El Clasico shows the kind of fanfare this face-off truly has. But this fanfare, this image has been tarnished by an outrageous act by a bunch of fans, an act that has brought disrepute to Spain's image in the footballing world. The racist incident not only put a taint on the supporters who attacked Yamal and other Barcelona players, but also puts a question mark on Spain as a sporting country. Reason enough for the government to step in and take up the matter seriously.
We will not allow aggressions that we do not tolerate in other spaces to become normalized in sports.
The Supreme Court Council too is set to meet to investigate the matter further. So clearly all of Spain is united to address this issue. But when will the fans, the perpetrators, truly understand the severity of this? Because this time the attacks happened inside Real Madrid Stadium, the same club whose player Vinicius Jr. has been racially attacked multiple times throughout the year. No amount of isolated punishments have resulted in any change or the situation's really improving. And if fans can rain terror on one of their own, technically, then no player can truly escape the wrath of these fans. So what this episode reiterates is drastic measures, whether it comes from a directive by the government or Spain Football Federation themselves, is needed to act at a larger scale and curb and snuff out this menace that is threatening to impact yet another player, someone who has immense potential to become the next footballing superstar, Lamine Yamal. The Formula One season is coming to a close with 4 races to go, and the Mexican Grand Prix over the weekend proved that the Drivers' Championship is going to be a close one. The title race may well go down to the wire, with McLaren's Lando Norris and Red Bull's Max Verstappen battling it out. But the question is, what is up with Verstappen? Is there a hint of the Red Bull driver feeling the heat from his competition? But getting to the race, neither Verstappen nor Norris won the race. It was Ferrari's Carlos Sainz who secured the first position. But the highlight of the weekend was Norris and Verstappen's near crash and Verstappen's double penalty. So what really happened there? Verstappen was under the pump because he needed to make things happen at the Mexican Grand Prix. He needed to extend that gap between him and McLaren driver Lando Norris. So in his quest for the hustle, Verstappen ended up committing double faults in lap number 10. Verstappen forced Norris off the track at turn 4. Then he rushed wide to stay ahead, which would have forced a crash unless Norris maneuvered. Because of these 2 offences, Verstappen was penalised 20 seconds, which led him to finish in 6th place, whereas Norris finished 2nd. The interesting thing to note, of course, here is Verstappen did something similar in last week's US Grand Prix as well. During the last race, though, the stewards found Verstappen's racing within the rules, but in Mexico, Verstappen's maneuvers were more rough and he was penalised. Norris even called him a dangerous driver.
He got what he had coming to him. This guy is dangerous. I just had to avoid a crash, the same as last time. I'll be in the wall in a minute.
And not like Verstappen felt he should have done things any differently. He stuck to the tactics he resorted to during the race.
At the end of the day, if you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter because the penalties are given. That was also honestly not my biggest problem of the race. My biggest problem was that we just had no pace.
Maybe Verstappen is trying to shift his focus to the upcoming race, but what this result has done is that it's made the remaining 4 races that much more interesting. Over in the drivers' standings, the gap between Norris and Verstappen has now reduced to just 47 points. Still a massive gap given there are only 4 races left, but mathematically, Norris can still dethrone Max Verstappen for the title. I'll come back to that in a bit, but the major shift in the constructors' standings, what looked like a battle between Red Bull and McLaren, now has become a battle between Ferrari and McLaren. McLaren are leading with 566 points, followed by Ferrari with 537 and Red Bull down to 3rd spot. So clearly Red Bull's grip on the constructors' title has loosened considerably, but is Verstappen on the verge of losing his hold too? More than the points, now the battle has become psychological. Norris, who faced penalty in the last race in Austin, was still calm and composed post that to come to this position and this race and finish 2nd. Verstappen seemed to go rogue in between, reenacting similar tactics with not the result he desired. With this penalty, he's accumulated 6 penalty points so far this season, not the kind of record he would boast of. Another 6 points would mean a race ban. Now, it's a while away to get there, yes, and maybe Max Verstappen will mend his ways for the last dash of the season, the last stretch. The Dutch driver will have to avoid getting into such positions at any cost, because even if he holds a 47-point edge over Norris, the driver's title isn't entirely his just yet. If Norris is able to finish on podium on a few races and Verstappen continues to finish outside of it or encounters a race like the one he had last weekend, Norris is most likely to get ahead. So Red Bull will be telling their driver to probably adopt less aggressive measures and focus on getting the races in the bag here on. Yes, it's not been the perfect year for him or Red Bull. It all started with the controversy surrounding their principal, Christian Horner, with Norris then starting to breathe down Verstappen's neck. The last few weeks have seemed like the master driver is unraveling. So maybe all he needs to do is just look over at the standings. He's still number 1, so he needs to maintain that lead by finishing in the top 5 consistently. But can Max keep his cool till the finish? Time for last serve. We are wrapping up the show with yet another visually stunning sport, kite surfing. Iberquira Lake in Brazil witnessed a kite surfing world championship for the very first time. Watch the winners dazzle the crowd. That wraps it up here on Firstpost. Do join in again tomorrow for more updates from the world of sports. Till now, take care.
Firstpost decodes the U.S. election, explains how America chooses its president. Your primer on the race to the White House. Everything you need to know about how America votes and its global implications. U.S. Election Explained. Every Monday and Thursday only on Firstpost.